It's Baseball at the Corner. This is the Michigan in Trouble podcast with your hosts, Alex S. Freeman and Luke Jaconis.
Hello and welcome to the Michigan and Trumbull podcast. I am joined, as always, by Luke Jaconis. Luke, we are pulling back the curtain here, as we often do, recording on a Saturday this week. So you, the listener, know what occurred in the Saturday night or Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon games. We do not. So listen with a grain of salt if we try and reference how the Tigers are doing against the White Sox. And you already know that they won both games by a combined score of 76-4.
Wow. The Tigers can only get 4 runs?
Yeah, it was rough.
Terrible.
It was rough. They were all against Dylan Cease, though, but still.
That's impressive. That's impressive. It's a tough order the Tigers are going to be going up against here on this Saturday afternoon as the game is ready to kick off here in about an hour. Dylan Cease 7-0 in his career against the Tigers. I think he's got an ERA of under 2. Yes, that is correct. Dylan Cease is 7-0 record with a 1.91 ERA over 7 career starts against Detroit. He has struck out 47 batters over 42 1/3 innings, and he has 14 scoreless innings and 2 wins over the Tigers this season alone. So going to be a tricky game for the Tigers, but to their credit, they're playing better. They're hitting better. Not really resulting in a lot of wins, which that's not good because, that's kind of the end game here, so to speak, is the win ball games.
Part of the point.
I can acknowledge, even though sometimes there's been frustrations on my end, they're playing better. Also, it's bizarre, too. I was thinking about this last night, the Friday night game I'm now referencing. They lost 5-4. They lose in extras. But it was bizarre. I was watching that game as if they were competing for the AL Central. Yet they're 10 games under 500. They're in 4th place. But for some reason, there just feels to be a little bit of a buzz kind of starting to build with this team. Also, I think last night was the biggest crowd they have had since 2019. Obviously since 2019 because there was no fans in the stands last year. But there was over 14,000 people in the crowd last night. And seeing all those people kind of huddled together right down by home plate in the 9th and then an extra innings was really, really great to see, especially given everything last season. And then for the Daz Cameron home run, that was an awesome moment. Couldn't really finish the job, so to speak, in terms of pulling out the win, but the Daz home run was very cool. Congrats to Daz Cameron on his first big league home run. And Tigers lose, though, last night. Tigers lose. Never good, but they lose.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of a really nice place to start is because over the last probably week and a half, it's been a season of roster evolution, but over the past week and a half, we've started to once again see a lot of these young, talented guys that we've heard a lot about kind of come up. We've seen Derek Hill come up. Obviously, the shoulder injury, unfortunate, but an incredible play that he made when he got hurt.
Yep.
But then that brought in Daz Cameron coming up to get a shot at his first big league home run. Obviously, the continuing story of Eric Haas and Jake Rogers, which that's another. Both Grayson Greiner and Wilson Ramos, I was reading reports, are getting ready to kind of enter the rehab stint phase of their coming back off the injured list. So I would guess in the next week and a half or so, we'll have kind of the answer to the question of what the Tigers are going to do with 4 catchers, one of whom can be a left fielder. And one of them can kind of be a DH, I guess.
That one would be Grayson. Yeah, Wilson, they're going to try Wilson. I read reports Wilson Ramos will try in center field this year. He is going to try to fill the void for Jacoby Jones being gone, Victor Reyes being injured.
Jacoby Jones, who started Friday night in Toledo after being after
he cleared, so he cleared waivers, so he's back with Toledo. So there's not a Jacoby Jones return to the major leagues, especially for the Tigers in a Tigers uniform in Detroit, not out of the question at this point in time. But we'll just have to kind of see how it all goes down.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that kind of kicks us into our main conversation, which is on the Friday night broadcast. Al Avila joined the guys and started talking about the young talent in the system. They started talking about trade deadline stuff. And one of the interesting comments that was interesting for me was talking about this young nucleus of talent to build around. He was also kind of pretty clear that the Tigers are not necessarily looking to make a move at the trade deadline. They're not actively shopping either, nor are they actively going to market with any of these guys. But if the right opportunity presents itself, he obviously kept the door open for that. But he was pretty clear that it needs to kind of actively make the team better. Now, at Al's judgment on what makes the team better, that is, anyone's guess at this point. But that was kind of an interesting thing. Like, so who to you, Luke, when he refers to this young nucleus of talent, is that? Who are the guys that you think either that you think the Tigers should be looking to build around, or that the Tigers are looking to build around?
I mean, it's kind of a cop-out answer, but obviously your Casey Mize, your Tarek Skubals. If you're looking guys who aren't with the major league club yet, definitely Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, Dylan Dingler, Matt Manning. I know he's struggling at AAA right now, but definitely someone along his line. And he's going to get it together too. We talked about it, I think, on last week's show. I'm almost at the point now where I'm just going to bring him up. Let's see what Chris Fetter can do with him. Just kind of see. Chris Fetter's done an outstanding job this entire season. Maybe he can kind of rub off on Matt Manning a little bit as well. But I don't know if that'll happen. I do think we're still going to see Matt Manning sometime this year. I still think sometime in July is kind of when we're going to see him make his entrance in Detroit. Dylan Dingler, as I said, is having a really good campaign down in the minors. There's a lot of interesting kind of pieces down there. And, I know I've been hearing rumors from stuff I've been reading that like they're kind of beginning to think if it's already time to start maybe promoting guys like Dingler and Torque from West Michigan up to Eerie. So put them at AA. My opinion on that would be is if it's time and if it makes sense, great. I definitely am not one of these people who thinks that, the rule of like you have to start in single A, low A, then go to high A, then double A, then triple A, then you get to the majors. Like if you're ready to go, make the move when it's time. Don't just stay down there because that's how the way of baseball has always been. So that'll be interesting. I think we'll definitely see a promotion here maybe in the next couple of weeks, just based off the little I've been kind of keeping tabs on those guys down in the minors. They seem to be doing great. So let's get them up. Let's get them up and get them moving as quickly as we can. Do I think we're going to see Riley, Torque, Dingler, anyone else kind of the big names down in the minors this season? Probably not. But 2022, I don't think it's out of the question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's out of the question. But you look at the guys on the roster right now, kind of keeping them around for, surviving through the trade deadline, surviving through this season, then having them around for years to come. It's going to be the guys like Casey Mize, Tarek Skubal, Isaac Paredes. I'm very excited that Daz Cameron is getting a shot. It was unfortunate what happened to Derek Hill, but I'm glad he was getting an opportunity. Jake Rogers has been getting an opportunity. We've seen what's been going out there. Same can be said for Eric Haas. It goes back to what I've been saying for many, many episodes in the past prior to these last couple of weeks. It's just like, give these guys a chance. Like we heard about them for years and years, especially Derek Hill, Daz, and Jake Rogers. Like the three of them, we just heard their names for so long now. And it's just like, I just kind of feel like they already had lost their opportunity before they even got it. So I'm glad to see them up here now and for the most part succeeding with what they've been given. I hope Derek Hill can get back soon. It doesn't sound like it's going to be an injury that keeps him out for a particularly long amount of time. But again, anything with the shoulder is serious. So definitely want to not rush that. Just let it kind of heal properly and get him back to the club ASAP. But good for Daz, good for Jake Rogers, good for Haas. Paredes, also has had a really nice start. Really probably should have had a better week for Isaac Paredes. But Seattle had different plans on that. What was that? Was that Wednesday night? That Wednesday evening game. So it is what it is. But yeah, I think there's a lot of guys. And if you look at the bullpen too, guys also that I think we're going to see stick around for a little while. Funkhauser. I think Alex Lang. There's something about Alex Lang. I just really like him when he takes them out. Gregory Soto, although very wild at times, I think has been effective more so as of late. Cisnero too. I think is pretty good too. I've said the same thing about Soto and Cisnero. When they're on, no one's going to touch him. But when they're off and they can't throw strikes, it's a mess. It's a mess. So.
Yeah, they don't have, and Jack talks about this the most in the broadcast. They don't have that kind of ability to pitch around when their stuff isn't on. And that which is, kind of that thing that separates a pitcher with a lot of talent from someone who's like a really great pitcher. And I think that's the biggest issue with, especially, we saw it on Friday night when Cisnero couldn't throw a strike to save his life in the 10th inning.
Yes.
I think the first 9 of his first 10 pitches were balls. So that's going to be tough when you kind of start the inning that way.
Yeah.
Now, coming out of a rain delay, whatever, all that blah 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 blah.
So were you watching the game during the rain delay?
I wasn't watching during the rain delay. I turned it off when the rain delay started, and then
Did you see Liam Hendricks on the mound when he threw the ball?
Yes, I did.
What a crybaby.
Yeah.
What a crybaby. Nice look, I get it. It was raining. The right call was made. They should have put the tarp on the field, but come on, dude. He looked like such a little whiny crybaby baby. There's another word I like to call him right now, but as we talked about before going, we got to get this back to a PG-13. So I'm trying to keep it there. But there's a word I would like to refer to him as right now. He just looks he's throwing like a temper tantrum on the mound. It's like, come on, dude. They're going to call us in like 30 seconds. Just
because that's where there's been a lot of like meme talk around the internet of Tony La Russa falling asleep in the dugout. And that's a spot also where it kind of felt like Tony La Russa fell asleep in the dugout because like after he throws that first pitch, and then the catcher immediately gets another ball. Like it clearly someone's got to come out and be like, why are we still playing baseball? And the Tigers, AJ Hinch is not going to come out and do that. The Tigers are not going to do it because right now he doesn't have a grip enough on the ball. He's going to walk everybody and he'll walk in the wind. Like
let's let it ride.
Let's just keep this going.
Keep it going.
That's like one of those spots where it's like, Tony, what's happening? Pay attention, bud. Like
probably should have been out there before they even got to the bottom of the ninth. Because I know it was raining in the top half when was it Brian Garcia, I think, pitched in the top of the ninth, I want to say last night. So and then that lefty for the Sox too, Crochet, I think his name is, or whatever. Dylan Crochet, I think. I'm mispronouncing his last name. But it was raining for both those guys and they're pitching. And Shep even said it on the broadcast. He's like, yes, it's raining a little bit harder right now, but Hendricks is just like throwing a temper tantrum on the mound. And look, if the shoe's on the other foot, I probably too would have been pissed off. Like, why are we still playing right now? Yeah. The right call was made. I just thought it was very humorous that we got to see a grown man act like a little spoiled 3-year-old girl who didn't get the toy she wanted from Toys R Us. That being Liam Hendricks. He looked like such a crybaby on the mound last night. And they made the right call because, God forbid they keep it going. He could get hurt. Someone could get hurt. That's not
certainly.
Good. I don't want anyone getting hurt, but it was just like the way he went about it. I was like, come on, dude. It's going to get called in 20 seconds. Relax.
Yeah, and it's like, and that's just like one of those things where I'm like, your manager is failing you right now because
he's forcing
you to do the manager's job right now.
I feel like Tony La Russa, we talk about him a lot, but I think probably at a point in time it was like we talked about the Tigers and then like St. Louis Cardinals baseball. Now the Cardinals have been replaced with Tony La Russa. We talk Tigers and Tony. That's it. Tony the Tigers. That's the name.
It's a Tigers podcast, so that's why we keep
it's in the same vein. Next week we're talking only about Tony Soprano and all his mistresses. It's going to be a big episode, I tell you. But with Tony La Russa, every time I watch him, he just looks so out of place. Like he just looks completely out of place with the White Sox. And maybe it's working. I still think there's going to be coming a point in time down the road. I think sometime when it gets to those dog days in August, that this team is going to it's going to boil over and we're going to see some bad blood within the team and maybe Tony La Russa. But as it stands right now, he's doing a great job because, I think they have the second best record in baseball. So, I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at, but excuse me. But I think at a point in time, we're going to see it with Tony, that he's going to just kind of lose it. Maybe not lose it, but I'm just waiting for it. It's happening at some point. I'm just kind of waiting on it.
Yeah, and in the vein of the fact that no Tigers have yet been thrown out of a game, I believe
Crazy.
that remains true. I thought Robbie Grossman was going to get thrown out on Friday night.
Last
the way
night,
the way he was arguing that second strike.
in the 10th inning.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that was a ridiculous call.
it was a bad call, and then it caused the third strike because he had to swing because it had just been called a strike.
Yeah, that was a horrible call.
But I thought he was going to get tossed, and he probably only didn't get tossed because it was the 10th inning. But yeah,
I'm shocked. Yeah, that there has not been one ejection on this team thus far into the season. I mean, here we are, almost the middle of June, and not one player or coach has been rung up. It's or tossed out, I should say. So it's kind of crazy. I thought for sure Miguel or someone. I want to see Hinch get tossed. Because AJ is a pretty monotone guy, but that's what I like about it. What I'm so impressed with this team, even though they're 11 games under 500, and with AJ Hinch and the coaching staff in particular, like it always looks like they're working during the game.
Yeah.
Like they're always looking at something. They're reviewing, probably some sort of defensive strategy. Whoever's on the mound warming up for the opposing team, like his pitches are, all that stuff. I mean, the inner workings of this team with the coaching staff and a lot of these players, they always just seem to be working. Watching AJ Hinch last night, watch Scope, I think it was Scope or Castro, take that at bat at the top of the, he just looked so locked in. And even though the Tigers didn't win tonight, and that was very saddening to me, I just like I said at the beginning, they're 10 games under 500. They're like 12 or 13 games off first place. They're not winning the division this year, but there is still something that's really intriguing about this team. And I have to be hesitant with myself because I don't want to say that next year is going to be the year, although I think like we're really starting to kind of see the potential that it could be. I feel like there's something good coming at some point. And maybe that's me being overly optimistic and just begging for something good to happen with this team. But I just feel like we are going to slowly get there. We texted this morning. We had a very interesting text. We should probably go into that on the show. I think it would make for a good discussion. But at the end of our initial text that we had, our debate we had, I said the point, and I agree with that. The points I texted you this morning. I think the three things that are going to push the Tigers over the edge, and it's pretty self-explanatory: the continuation of the developing the players in the minor leagues, what Al does this offseason, and more in the more immediate future at the trade deadline, and then finally if Chris Ilitch opens up his wallet. I think those are the three things that are really going to determine where this team is going next year. Because there's some really intriguing puzzle pieces right now in the team that I can definitely see being part of the future for many seasons to come. But there, at the same time, there are still quite a few holes with this team that I look at and I go, yeah, this has to be addressed. And I don't know if it's some guy. I don't know if we have the time to wait for someone to develop 3 or 4 years in the minors, or can this just be fixed if Chris Ilitch opens up his wallet this offseason and brings in a shortstop?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's one of those, to kind of go back to your first point in there, of this coaching staff is like constantly working. It's also like very clear that they're not just like working on analytics of like how to approach the next inning, but they're like clearly developing talent. There was a great shot in the Friday night game of George Lombard coaching Daz Cameron, while AJ Hinch is coaching Akil Baddoo, and like just like actively in conversation with those guys, talking about little things as they happen, and working to continue developing those guys even as they come up here, up into the big leagues. And so I think that's a really important thing. And I also, I think that your optimism about next year is not misplaced, because whether it's next year or the year after, I think that it will happen very fast. I don't think, kind of just like what I've been seeing, I'm getting the sense that this is all going to suddenly click. That whatever it is, whatever piece slides in, it's going to suddenly, like AJ and his staff are really, really narrowing in on, this is the very specific get.
Yeah.
Go get me a shortstop with a bat. We'll take a slightly less good defensive shortstop if he's very plus on the bat. And so those types of things, or maybe it's we jettison Scope. We say thank you, Jonathan, for your time in Detroit, and we get a second baseman with a great bat, and we really focus in on developing Isak as a shortstop.
Yeah.
Like those types of things. Like obviously there have been a few guys that have played shortstop this year, none of which at this moment are like, yeah, that's the answer to our shortstop woes. But they could be. I mean, we've seen Isak hit really well at this level. We've seen flashes of it. We've seen flashes of it from kind of all the guys that have rotated into that position. And so if there's
for the most part, yeah.
another bat that we can add that maybe isn't a true shortstop, that could be okay. I think that there's a lot of those right now. There just isn't that like big name around which you can anchor the team. Used to be Miguel Cabrera, is no longer Miguel Cabrera. We need someone to take that spot. We don't have that guy quite yet. Yeah. And I think that's an acquisition this offseason. I don't know who, but that's probably the acquisition this offseason.
I have a gut feeling that's going to kind of be how it shapes up too. It just seems like it's the right fit. I love what you just said there about Miguel Cabrera, and that was not by any means a slight to Miguel Cabrera. And I know you weren't taking it that way, because you and I have said it time and time again how much we love Miggy. What's really interesting, what I like about this team right now too, again, they're 11 games under 500. On a quick side note, it would be really interesting to see where this team would be right now had they not gone, 9-24 in the month of April or whatever it was, that horrendous month of April. Like if they could have gotten out of that month maybe 5 games under 500 even, like who knows really where this team could be at this moment in time. It's a total hypothetical what if, but just kind of something to think about. But what you said about Miggy is great too, because you're right. He is not the guy anymore. We've talked about that time and time again. He can still be productive, but he's not the guy. And that's what I really like about this team right now. There's like 3 different levels. There are the young bucks, the Mizes, the Daz Camerons, the Derek Hills, the Paredes, who we're thinking are going to be with this team for many years to come in some capacity. And then you've kind of got those middle of the road guys, the Jamer Candelarios, maybe a Harold Castro, a Nico, who it's kind of like some of these guys we think that they're going to be here long term, maybe like a Jamer. Some of these guys we don't really know where they go beyond the season, with a guy like a Nico Goodrum. Then you have those vets. You've got your Miggies. You've got your Robbie Grossmans. You've got even a guy like a Nomar Mazar, who's on a 1-year deal and probably won't even be with the club this time next year. Like it's an interesting kind of dynamic with all of these different players, like at different points in their career. Then you take into that, you have a World Series champion coach in AJ Hinch, but he also has a pretty young coaching staff behind him. I know Lombard's got some experience, but this is Fetter's first go in the majors, so that's kind of interesting. Ramon, I know, was with the team last year. Chip Hale, I don't really know the origin of Chip Hale, so I'll pull back on that. I know Scott Poolbaugh was with the White Sox last year and all that. So it's just like, even with the coaching staff, there's like different levels of like experience and inexperience, and I think that's really fascinating too. The only thing I want to add on that coaching staff point is the only thing that makes me sad about this coaching staff is that I don't think George Lombard will be long with the organization. Just I don't either. He's going to get a managerial job sooner, way rather than later. He was almost the Tigers manager this time around, so I think that this season, maybe one more season as AJ Hinch's bench coach. I hate to say it, but like, if the White Sox win a World Series and Tony retires, I don't know why they wouldn't go get George Lombard to be their manager following Tony La Russa. That's a great point, because I've thought about that too a couple times. And that point you made about Lombard talking with Daz, and I think you said it was Hinch talking with Akil Baddoo. I thought that was such a great representation of, I think, where this team is right now and where they will be in the future. Just like it's that energy, it's a buzz with this team. I can't quite put my finger on it because they are 11 games under 500. And there still have been plenty of losses, even as of late, that I want to rip my hair out and scream at the top of my lungs. And I usually do, and I wake the neighbors. And this is not a slight to previous the previous coaching staff and managers, in particular Gardy, but we never really saw that. I can picture a lot of games in the last 2 or 3 years when Gardy was at the helm, where it was like, the coaches are at the top of the step. It was usually like Gardy and Rick Anderson and whoever, Lloyd McClendon. And then like down at the other end, it was the players. And now I just feel like there's a lot more integration. It just feels like there's that chemistry kind of flowing with this coaching staff and this team. And I think, and maybe this is just wishful thinking because the last, 5 or 6 weeks of Tigers baseball has been a lot more bearable than it was in the month of April. But I think soon, and not 3 or 4 years down the line soon, like a lot of people keep saying, I think next year, maybe even the year after, you're going to start seeing a lot of this stuff really gel, and you're going to see a pretty good ball club. But as you said, a couple moments ago, the thing that really is going to kind of make or break that, I think, is bringing in and acquiring a big player this offseason, whether it's via a free agent signing or a trade. They got to do something. And this is why, I went on a big tirade rant against Al Avila a couple of weeks ago, and I stand by that because what they were doing in the month of April was, I think, some of the worst Tigers baseball I've maybe ever seen ever.
Yeah, we'll say editorially, we still stand by the statement, fire Al Avila.
Yes. I'm still not, just because the Tigers have been playing better the last 6 weeks does not mean Al Avila gets a get out of jail free card. He still has a lot of explaining to do. But I think it's a fair statement to make that this offseason, this upcoming offseason, I think the magnifying glass is going to be almost a little bit more on Illich than maybe Avila. Avila's going to, definitely be making, going to be doing what he can to make trades and whatnot, bring in guys. But it's going to be on Illich, I think, in a lot more ways because he said for years that this is going to be the offseason when they start spending money. They've got all the big contracts off the books with the exception of Miggy. So now it's time to spend some money again. And now we're going to see if he's a man of his word or if he was just blowing smoke up our ass for the last couple of seasons. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. We obviously won't know about that till later this winter and the earlier parts of 22 next year, but something to kind of think of as, this season moves on. I think we're at now, if I'm not mistaken, there's 99 games left in the year. 100. I think last night was would have marked 100 games left.
100 games left. So we're
now we're at 99.
As this drops Monday, 99, 98, 97 or so games left in this season, depending on what day you've gotten to listening to the podcast. Yeah. I mean, just a couple cribbing a little bit from the Motor City Bengals and their minor league reporting. Nice job to those guys over there. I like those guys. They do a nice job. Yep. We saw Joey Wentz went 4 innings in a rehab start with the Lakeland Flying Tigers, 5 runs over 6 hits and struck out 7. Kind of looking ahead. Obviously, we've mentioned it that, Dylan Dingler and Spencer Torkelson have been doing great work at High A West Michigan. And just a little note, I have booked a trip back to Michigan for the end of August to see the Lansing Lugnuts versus the West Michigan Whitecaps. For those that have been long listeners to the show will know, I grew up in the Lansing area. The Lansing Lugnuts are the only moment in which I cheer against a member of the Tigers farm system. I am a Lugnuts fan over a Whitecaps fan. That doesn't mean that if by some weird twist of fate, Spencer Torkelson is still in West Michigan, I will not.
If he's still in West Michigan in August, something has gone horribly awry between now and August. If he's still with the Whitecaps come the time you go to the game. Because you're almost going at like Labor Day. If he's still with the Whitecaps by Labor Day, something has gone horribly wrong. It's like the
last week of the minor league season. There's not a lot of baseball left. I'm way more likely to see somebody like Jose De La Cruz in that game than I am to see probably Dingler or Torkelson.
Hey, speaking of minor league baseball, I think I'm going to a minor league game this week. I think they're the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles, I want to say, or I don't know what they used to be the Fort Myers Miracle. I don't know what their name is any longer. I think it's like the Mighty Muscles or the Mighty
Miracle
like
over.
That. What's that?
Miracle over. The miracle has ended.
Yeah, the miracle is over. Yeah, now it's something else.
But they're eating seafood.
Yes. Was that what it is? The Mussels?
It's what I assume it's MUSS. ELS and not
the measles, the Mighty Measles.
Yes.
Mighty Measles. The Fort Myers Mighty Measles. But the Fort Myers minor league team this week, the Lakeland Flying Tigers coming to Fort Myers. So I'm going to go check that out. And actually, I need to look. When did Joey Wentz last pitch? Because if he pitched like the other night, like last night, let's say, maybe he'll pitch when they're in town. If so, then I got to definitely try to get to that game.
You might land in the rotation.
Yeah, I can check that out. I'll check the
I'm
website.
going to a Mets game Monday night. And obviously DeGrom pitched
City Field
Friday. So I will not see DeGrom as they play the Cubs.
If you see Frank the Tank from Barstool there, please get a picture. Even though I don't think you watch any of those videos I ever send you, please get a picture for my sake, and feel free to just like let out a Mets agony scream with him. It would make my day. It would make my day.
I intend to watch the Mets as they take on the Cubs.
The mighty Measles Mets. The mighty Measles Mets.
The mighty Measles Mets.
Real quick, just kind of recapping this past week. Tigers took 2 of 3 from Seattle. It's really all we know because, as we said, we still have 2 more games that haven't finished yet in the White Sox series as we're recording on a Saturday afternoon. Can I start an online GoFundMe that the Tigers should just play the Mariners for the rest of the season? They went 5-1 against the Mariners this year. I think it was their first season victory against the Mariners since I believe 2016, if I'm not mistaken. So that's pretty awesome. It's embarrassing, but also awesome. I mean, because and you're all right because it is embarrassing. It's not like the last 5 years the Mariners have been lighting up Major League Baseball. They've been a very bad to mediocre team. So you are right, Alex. Embarrassing is the right word.
Few teams worse than the Mariners in that stretch of time. The Tigers happen to be one of them.
They happen to be one of them. But that was good. Yes, they took 5 of 6 from the Mariners this year. That's pretty cool. And then this upcoming week, they got a road trip coming up. I think they go to KC and then they're out in LA. So again, winnable games. These are the Royals. We've played well against them. They've played well against us. LA can hit the ball, but they still don't have any pitching. So hopefully, the Tigers can take advantage of these kind of barely 500-ish teams and get some wins on this upcoming road trip.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great week of baseball. Hopefully we can kind of actually, lock in those wins. It'd be
good. Now, the game's going to start here in about 20 minutes, and I want to be able to make first pitch. But before we do that, I brought it up, and I think it's fair. I think we owe it to our listeners, and we'll have a friendly discussion debate. Well, you and I had a spirited conversation this morning via text. I was very upset last night.
Yes, we did a private text show. I'm going to pause you right there, Luke, because we're going to take our ad break.
This is good foreshadowing.
Then we will come back and we will relive the text conversation that we had this morning that also blew up Tom Souls' phone, even though he was not actively involved in the conversation.
It's true.
We'll be right back.
Yes.
We are back on the Michigan and Trumbull podcast for a quick little recap and refight of an ongoing argument that you and I have been having. This was not the first time that this argument has flared up. It happens to flare up, every time the Tigers go into extra innings. Weird how that works. I won't summarize your position. I agree that the extra innings rule is not good. I agree. I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Yes.
I would vastly prefer that the extra innings started with no extra runners on base.
Yes. Okay, so yes, I think for about 95% of this, Alex, you and I are on the same page. There's about 5% that we are not, and that's what we will now get into on the second half of the show. And I want to reiterate this too, my point, because we're both on the same page. We do not like the extra innings rule. However, we both have said that if they want to go a route where they put a runner on second base in extra innings, fine. Just don't do it, through innings 10 through 11, maybe implement it in innings 12 and beyond or something along those lines. I think we're both pretty much under the same agreement that it's like, you can put the runner on second, but give us at least 2 innings of extra innings baseball, maybe 3, and then we can kind of negotiate when you put the runner on second if the game is still going on. Are we on the same page there?
Yeah, 100%.
Perfect. And I will also say this too before we get into the part where I know we're not on the same page on. I also, because the Tigers have, this has benefited the Tigers, the extra inning rule this season, and it also has not benefited them. Regardless if they win or lose, I can acknowledge that I think the way extra innings baseball is currently set up in the MLB is garbage. So it's not like just when the Tigers lose, I get all pissy and moany about it. Even when they win, I can kind of be like, I'm glad they won. It still kind of feels like a cheap win, but they got the win nonetheless. So I just want to make that clear. I just only get more animated when the Tigers get hosed by it. And unfortunately for the Tigers, they got hosed by it twice this past week, once against the Mariners and then Friday evening against the White Sox. Where you and I differ is I feel that the way that the current Major League Baseball extra innings rule is set up, I feel that it rewards lazy managers, or, and this is something I will go back on compared to our beginning text in the morning, maybe lazy isn't the right word, inexperienced managers. My opinion is this. If I'm a first-year manager who has never coached a day in his life, and I'm going up against one of the greats, it's funny because we just knock him all the time, but Tony La Russa, regardless of what he's doing with the White Sox, is one of the greatest managers to ever manage the game of baseball. Regardless of how stupid he looks wearing a White Sox hat in the 2021 season, he is one of the best to ever do it. If it's me versus Tony La Russa in extra innings, I don't like the fact that it becomes a level playing field by putting a runner on second base. I think you strategize. I think that you just play it the way it's been played for many, many years. A good manager, a great manager, and a great team doesn't need that freebie at second base. They will find a way to get that runner home without having that free handout at second base. And then let's do that. Don't have that runner at second base. And then may the better team and may the better manager win. That's where I come from on it.
Right. And I don't disagree with any of those points. I just don't think it's any different than not having a runner on second base, because obviously like runner on second base, it's very clear. Yeah. Obviously the top of the inning, if you're the away team, if anything, it favors the away team in this way, because all you have to do is paint by numbers, get the runner in, then have hopefully you have a pitcher that can close out the ninth, or the 10th without them scoring. It's still paint by numbers with no runners on, because it's get the first guy on, then get the run home. Like I don't think that there's a lot of like, it's the same kind of weird, kooky strategy, if nothing else, because you also maybe have to make a decision Tigers are a great example. If Miguel Cabrera was your last out in the ninth, you're obviously putting in a pinch runner for Miguel Cabrera. You're not going to have Miguel Cabrera run. And so that's a different strategic choice that you have to make. Or you can decide, maybe I will have Miggy run because we're going to go real long. I don't know.
You might need it
or
again.
I'm in a National League park. Like, when do I sub for my pitcher here, who maybe have been the last out? Is he fast? Can I have him run? And I don't have to burn a pinch runner here. I think that there's still a lot of strategic wrinkles that better managers will make. And it's also interesting because like we were having this argument after Friday night's game where World Series winning manager AJ Hinch versus
World Series manager,
absolute legend
three-time
Tony
champ.
La Russa, second winningest manager in Major League Baseball history. Two guys that neither of which are lazy managers.
Yes, exactly. Although, well, Tony, the way he looks now in Chicago, he looks quite lazy. But Tony La Russa 10 years ago, sure. I think one thing that I get frustrated too with, and let's also, in regards to the Friday night loss when the Tigers lost in the bottom of the 10th, they had the opportunities. I'm not arguing that at all. They had first and second, nobody out. Robbie Grossman had a bad at-bat, also due in part to some bad umpiring, but there didn't look like there was much of a plan there. Same can be said for Harold Castro. And then Scope hit a hard ground ball at the middle, but then the White Sox got it at second and threw him out easily at first. So the way you have to approach it too, I think, if you're the team coming in the top of the 10th, and it's the same thing with the team that comes in the bottom half, it's just getting that run over. That first out, I think, is incredibly crucial. If you can retire that first batter, whether it's a strikeout, line out, pop fly where the runner's not going to advance the third, you're only doing yourself more favors down the road. Because then even if you get that second batter out on a deep fly ball, worst thing they're doing is tagging to third, and then it really becomes that pivotal, crucial out, with the third batter in the inning, which at that point in time, you're just looking for anything. Ground ball, fly out, strikeout, doesn't really matter. I think the real kind of thing that I've noticed as of late when watching some more of these extra innings games is how crucial that first out is. But then, to play devil's advocate, the Tigers had a runner on second in the bottom half. And then I think it was Jake Rogers walked, I want to say. So he walked the lead off the ninth, and then they just completely kind of crapped the bed. So again, we're on the same page here. We really are. This isn't something that's going to break up the friendship or the show. I don't believe. I hope not. God, that'd be awful. But I just think that it's just annoying to me because I just feel like it's easy strategy. If a doofus like me can kind of be like, yeah, all we got to do is make sure we get this runner over to third, and then we have two chances to get him in. Great. Like I just feel like it takes away the prolonged long game strategy. And I told you earlier this day, and you brought up a good counterpoint to your credit. Imagine if you're this manager, you prep, hours before a game with defensive shifts and pitching matchups and defense, batting orders, pinch runners, when you're using your bullpen, all that stuff. And then the 10th rolls around. It's like, well, now we're just going to throw a runner on second base. And it just levels the playing field too much for me. I don't like that at all, among many other new rules, but it is what it is.
I think that part of it, it's hard to use the Tigers as an example here because our bullpen this guy doesn't really exist in our bullpen. Most of our, there's not like it. I guess the closest is Michael Fulmer, who's a guy who can I count on to come in and get 3 strikeouts, not give up flyouts, not give up, like he's going to get outs. They're going to be there. And so I think the Yankees might be a better team to utilize this scenario. Is if I am a manager, I know I have a runner coming in on second base. I have to make a decision in the 9th inning of a tie game of do I bring in top of the 9th? Do I bring in Aroldis Chapman to keep this game tied so that my team can win? Or do I bring in a relief pitcher that is going to it will hold the game, but may hold it in more of a 3 fly out and a ground out kind of way? Maybe my team can win in the 9th. Then I bring in Aroldis Chapman in the 10th. Yeah. He strikes them out, and now I can win in the 10th. So, I mean, there's still multi-level chess that these guys have to be doing. And I think that part of why it looks like it rewards lazy managers is because I think it really highlights the Tigers' weaknesses.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't have a strong enough bullpen where we can really, where AJ is needing to make these decisions. Nor do we have quite strong enough hitting that we can really always execute on small ball.
That's another thing too, where, then to also play devil's advocate against it, where I think it can favor the home team because, if you only left the 1 run in the top half of the 10th, right? Well, then, you've got then 3 outs to either tie the game, or all it takes is your next batter up to hit a big fly and you win the game. So, I mean, there is that advantage too. But even then, that just feels kind of come on, I guess it's kind of hard to describe in the sense of if I see a walk off in the bottom of the 9th, I'm like, well, this is perfect. This is how I think it should be. But I guess I just don't like the idea of just putting someone out there, or maybe they need to change the actual situation. Maybe put a runner on first, or if you're going to put a runner on second, put them out there with already 1 out. And then, not that they would ever do that, but almost go I don't know. I think if they're going to continue to do this, which you brought up the point this morning when we were kind of debating this, that you think this isn't going away, I really hope you're wrong on that for the record. But if it's not going away, I really think they need to reevaluate either when they're implementing this extra innings rule, that it should not be in the 10th, or if it's going to start in the 10th, then there needs to be some other sort of given circumstance going on with how the extra innings rules will begin. Maybe the runner starts at second, but they go out there with 1 out. Maybe they start them at first with no outs. I don't know. Just something to think about moving forward. Again, we are on the same page here. We really are, which is why the text was such thing.
We'd love the rule to go away. I do think my mind also went to that runner on first idea, where you see it all the time. As soon as that first runner gets to first base, they are significantly more likely to score a run in that inning, but they can't do it in a way that they just need to move the runner twice. They actually need to make an offensive play to successfully get that runner in. So I think maybe that's the solution. I'm not nearly equipped to do the math on if that would shorten the game enough to kind of like satisfy the desire of Major League Baseball and the Players Association, because as has been pointed out, like it was collectively bargained. They did agree to it, so like that, whatever that means, which is why I don't think the rule is going to go away, because similarly with the doubleheader rule, I think we would all love doubleheaders to not be 7 innings. But I don't know that players really like if they can get paid for 2 games but only play 14 innings.
They'll do it.
Who among us would not do 14 18ths of our job and take a full 18th of pay?
Exactly. I think one thing to keep in mind too, though, when they did this collective bargaining agreement, that was in the height of COVID. So do you think that potentially next year, we've already kind of looked at it many, many months away, that it's going to be a pretty hellacious negotiation process when this begins next year, to the point where we're already thinking that the season will be delayed because these two sides are not going to be able to come to a happy middle and agree. But maybe that's something down the road too. I mean, that was agreed upon when we didn't even know if we were going to have a season in 2020. And now here we are, stadiums are packed again. The season is back in full swing. So, maybe that kind of gets the boot too. I don't know. It's a longer discussion, but
it'll be interesting to me to see if, because it does, like, it feels like a lot of these things were put in both for like virus protocol type things to like limit exposure, but also because we were kind of trying to cram a lot of games into a short span. Theoretically, it was to limit injuries, and I don't. Without looking at the numbers, it certainly doesn't feel like it has accomplished that. I feel like there've been kind of a continued rash of injuries this season.
Tigers are pretty banged up right now, for what it's worth.
That I don't know that we're actually saving the wear and tear on these guys. And I think it'll be the more interesting discussion. I think that these things may or may not be more or less baked into collective bargaining. It's going to be the universal DH of
bring it back.
What does each side actually feel like around that? Because obviously we don't have it this year. And so that was not a thing that they were like, yeah, sure, let's do that again. And so we'll see. I mean, we'll see what that ends up being. I certainly, with the exception of Shohei Ohtani and apparently Jake DeGrom, hate watching pitchers take at bats. So
you can't tell me, as a fan of baseball, anyone out there listening or watching this, if you're a fan of baseball and you want to see like a fun, competitive game of baseball, just go watch that at bat Ronnie Garcia took a few weekends ago in Milwaukee. If you want to watch that, I question your sanity as a fan of Major League Baseball. If I'm paying money to go watch that, although funny, I'd be like, this is awful. I would just rather see this at bat have gone to somebody else. Why did it have to go to Ronnie? But
I would rather see Pause step up and take an at-bat than watch Ronnie Garcia take another at-bat at the Major League level.
I would rather watch Kirk Gibson get out of the broadcast booth, throw on his cleats, and just take another AB for old time's sake. Let's do it, Kirk. Here we go.
I would guess Kirk would hit better than most of the bullpen.
I agree with that. Also, real quick, because I know we want to wrap up here because this game's about to get going on the Saturday afternoon in which we're recording. People give a lot of crap to Shep and Gibby and the Tigers broadcast booth as a whole, but I want to make it clear that their call of Daz Cameron's two-run game, first career home run, 2-run game-tying home run in the bottom of the ninth on Friday evening was awesome. So shout out to those guys. I got chills listening to it. It was pretty good. I don't care if anyone disagrees with me on that one. That's where I will go full heel and say that you're wrong and I'm right, and that's how it has to be. It was a great call.
Exactly. Well, that'll do it. Let's head out. Let's head to the ball game here, Luke. And
I gotta get to. I'm leaving to go to Comerica.
The couch. Yes. To check out this game, and we will be back next week talking more Tigers. Hopefully, with some more wins than we've registered in the column so far. Have a good one, Luke.
See you, man. Have a good week.